guys do go through the program and you end up, using the program to purchase a home, I would be more than happy to set up a personalized equity table for you guys, right? A plan, 2, 3, 4 year, what Colleen did with me, and get you guys some guidance on where you should be over the course of, 4, 5, 6, 10 years. Colleen also will meet with you to go over budgeting, taxes, things like that. A lot of people don't realize, once you own a home, right, you got write-offs, things like that. Uncle Sam helps and how that works, and she kind of does. She's a genius at the finance game. So every home I bought, I thought I couldn't afford until I met with her, and she explained how to afford it and different things she can do, whether it be paychecks or taxes or write-offs. And I've always followed what she said, and I've never had an issue as far as being over leveraged in a home, right? Because when you think about it, if you buy a house and you own it for 10 years, there's not a single time period in the last 100 years where you would have lost money on owning a home for 10 years, right? It's impossible. You can plant that purchase on any date in the last 100 years, and over 10 years, you will have gained usually a great amount of equity. I mean, I think worst case scenario, a good amount of equity, right? So where people get in trouble is when they over leverage themselves into a home, right? Like 2008, people thinking they can afford things way above their means. And that's what Colleen is great at. She can sit down and she's very direct, right? She'll tell me, like she yelled at me about my Uber Eats. She said, "You're being ridiculous. That's so much, money you're throwing away." And I listened to her for a couple weeks, and I didn't order. I now know if I do start getting into financial trouble, instead of losing my house, Uber Eats would be the first to go, right? Because now I know how to think like someone who is investing, which she'll help teach you. So all these things we offer for free for people in our program. It's unbelievable. It is education first here, but get down, set a plan, follow it, and you're going to probably be successful if you don't get yourself into the situation some people do when buying a house. Right? Like I said, everyone knows owning a home is financially responsible, a smart thing to do. Look at every rich person there is, they all own property. There's a reason for that. It's not just because, oh, now I'm rich, I'm going to start buying homes. It's the opposite, right? So owning a home ownership is really the only way us normal people can build wealth. If we're not a famous athlete or actor or CEO, it's really the only way for us to become millionaires unless we win the Powerball, which I've tried. It's difficult to win that. Put a lot of eggs in that basket when it was $1 billion, and I was very disappointed that it did not work out in my favor. Someone in Illinois has won that though, but unless we jump into that luck, this is how, this is what you use to build wealth. All right, so this is called the gross equity table. One of our techie millennials, a lot smarter than me, built this. I don't know how I would ever try to do this on my own, but it's unbelievable. So when you buy a house, there's 2 ways you're building equity from the very start. Okay, the first one is in yellow here. It's called equity growth. That's what you pay yourself. Okay, so now let's start looking at the differences. When I make a rent payment, that's 100% interest, gone. Okay, I'm not getting it back at the end of the year. It's not going down next year. There's no return from that. That's money 100% in my left pocket going away to someone else. This is mortgage, right? Helping them create wealth. So now I have a mortgage, I make a payment, right? Yes, some of that is going to go to interest, which is write-offable, by the way. There's different things, and Colleen could explain that. We won't even get into that. But the rest of that payment is coming to myself, okay? Your home is now your second bank, and it has money for you. You don't see it, right? You don't think about it, but it's there every single month. So I make a payment, and I owe $500,000 in my house, and now I owe $499, right? And then a couple months go by, I'm making my payment, now I owe $490. Now I owe $480. A couple years goes by, I owe $420, $410, $400. Every time I make a payment, my balance is going down. So that's money, that's there. It's transferring from here into my bank, right? I'm paying down a balance. What's the most phenomenal thing about this is I'm using someone else's money to gain this equity, by the way. It's such an incredible deal. But the second way you're going to make money is market growth. Okay, that's what your home's value does. Okay, so if my home is worth $500,000, and next month it's worth $510. I've just gained $10,000 in market growth. All right, so we have equity growth, that's what I'm paying myself back, and we have market growth, that's what the value of my home is doing. All right, so when you add those together, right, that's your gross gain. Okay, so they've broken this down to your gross gain for first year, 3 years, and 5 years. Okay, so I'm just gonna sit right here 1 second and start plugging in some numbers. So let's just say, I'm gonna use real easy numbers. Let's say we buy a $500,000 house, right in the middle. It's just an easy number. Yeah, it may be more than that, but there's plenty of places to buy under that and over that. So most of the under that's probably going to be a condo, right? Which is where I started. It's fine if you really want to build wealth. Most of us have to start with a condo in San Diego. That's just how it works. All right, it's a down payment. Normally, you have to have a down payment, right? Unless you're a VA. However, Colleen will talk about there are new programs out where if you're a first-time home buyer, you can buy a house with no down payment. And I'll have Colleen explain that because she's the expert on the lending part. That's not my, but let's just say, to make this a very conservative table, I'm gonna put no down payment. Because obviously if I put down payment, it's gonna make our numbers look better. So I'm gonna make this very conservative. So we have no down payment. Interest rate, you know, they're what 4.75 right now, but let's be conservative. Let's bump that up to 5.5%, right? I'm gonna do worst case scenario here. Because, all right, so our mortgage payment in this scenario, no one freak out. I'm like, oh my God, that's my mortgage payment. No, this is just this random scenario, okay? Things are gonna be different for you. They could be better or worse. Honestly, it doesn't matter as long as you can buy something. So this person's, let's call this person Tim. Tim's mortgage payment is $2,800, property tax, interest, insurance, all those other goodies. You add those in there, their payment's about $3,300 in Tim's scenario. Now we're gonna go over here for market growth, right? The average, 46-year average was 5.4%. If you take COVID out, the last 12 years have been more like 7%. If you add COVID, it's more like 11%, but we're gonna be very conservative and just do 5, okay? Lower than the 40-year average. So this is assuming our property value goes up 5% per year. Okay, so we plug that in there. All right, in our first year of owning a home, we have paid ourselves back $6,700. So that's, you know, when we pay a $3,000 mortgage, a lot of it's going to interest, but the rest that's not interest is coming back to us, right? Because that's lowering our balance. So we pay ourselves $6,700. That's forced savings. That's savings you're doing and you don't even think about it. You don't even try to do it. You have to do it, right? Owning a home makes you save money. When you leave it up to me, there is no forced savings. There's nothing. There's forced eating. All right, and then 5% in 1 year, my property value went up $25,000, so that's $25,000 in market growth. So my net gain in my first year of home ownership is $3,100 and $31,000. Sorry, that's a lot. That's a lot, and people don't realize that. And yes, it's true. My numbers were higher than this through my 3 transactions since 2016. But if you think about it, I mean, anyone here, if your job said, hey, you know, Dustin, we're going to give you an extra $31,000 a year because you're doing a great job. I mean, that's significant, right? That's not like a 10-cent raise. I mean, that's holy cow, right? I'd be stoked, Colleen. And let's break that down monthly, right? Because that's how we pay our bills, right? That's how we live. We are a monthly society. Our mortgage is monthly. Our rents are monthly. Our electric bills are monthly. So 31,000 divided by 12. Like I said, I'm bad at math. Okay, it's $2,500 a month of income, right? So yeah, oops, that's still up there. My payment's $3,300, but I'm netting $2,500 a month, right? That's phenomenal. You compare that to I'm renting $2,000, that's all gone, right? So in reality, if you actually look at the money, you're destroying rent. Rent's a joke compared to what owning a home is. And this is in a below average year. Even look at this is nuts too. Let's say home values don't move. right? Because I mean, they've only gone up 5.4%, 46 straight years of average. But let's say for some reason they don't go up, you're still gaining money because of what you're paying yourself, right? Because you pay yourself back, even in a market where values do not increase a penny, you are way better off than rent because of the forced savings, right? So, I bet you, let's get real crazy. -1. Still positive. Even if values go down and you own a home, you're still positive. You're still an extra $1,700 a month. You're still $11,000 in 3 years. The cool thing about that, as far as going down in San Diego, yeah, it happens, but it doesn't last very long. The largest crash we have ever seen in 2008 lasted till about 2010, 2 years. And the market started recovering hand over fist, lightning speed, right? So values since 2010 till now have gone up dramatically, right? So if I look at you and say, hey, you're gonna invest in something, 18 years of it's gonna be phenomenal, but 2 years of it's gonna be bad, or not even bad, just suck. I mean, not amazing. I don't know what 2 years are gonna be bad, and I don't know what 18 years are gonna be good. Would you still take that investment? Of course, right? I'll take 2 years of bad, you give me 18 years of good? Look at history, that's what happens. Even the Great Depression, right? That didn't even last 2 to 3 years maybe, and then prices kept going. And then the small dips have been 1 year. So I mean, this latest dip is probably gonna be 6 months until we're back on target, because there's no underlying issues other than just that huge spike we had because of inventory. So even if home values go down, it doesn't make sense to me not to buy a house, because you're literally trying to time such a perfect moment that it's impossible. It's almost impossible to I mean, if people timed it, it's pure luck. I don't care what they tell you. They got lucky and they hit some perfect spot. But over history, the best time to buy is just get in the market now and let it do its thing. Take the 2 years of bad and enjoy the 18 years of good. Historically, that's what always happens. And like I said, it would take something so bad that, at that point we probably wouldn't care. Right, like a nuclear war or something. But so that's important. First thing is to look at. Let's go back to normal here. All right, we got our 5%. Okay, so stepping stone, right? That's why I said this is how I lived in San Diego. This is how I was able to get what I wanted. Is you have to buy the sacrifice first. Okay, if you want to make money, unless you win the lotto, unfortunately you have to sacrifice. You can't just get rich without working your ass off or investing in something, and maybe something you don't like, right? But you have to think of the future. You can't think of the now. And that's another big issue, especially this generation. They're very now oriented, right? So, I mean, and it's kind of phones' faults. And so we get information instantly. So we built a society where things are right now and no one thinks future-wise, right? And then I see that, especially a lot of my younger clients, they want that instant gratification, and apparently sacrificing for a big payoff is kind of a lost art right now. So I'm here to show you that, hey, if you sacrifice, you're going to be way better off if you can think in the future, right? So in 3 years, now you have $72,000. That's tax-free income because you've owned your home for 2 years, right? So in the United States, if you own a home for 2 years, you can sell that. You can keep 100% of the profit, as long as it's under like 250 if you're single, or 500,000 if you're married. There's also other ways and other things, loopholes and stuff, but that's about the average. But so this is tax-free money, right? So now imagine your boss is like saying, oh, we're gonna give you $30,000 a year and we're not gonna tax it. Cool, huh? Well, yeah, absolutely cool. So that's literally what's happening. But now you can take your 72 grand that you've sacrificed and made, and you sell your house and you move it up. Right now you have a $72,000 down payment. Yeah, your mortgage could go up a little bit depending on how big of a jump you want to make. But sit down with Colleen, right? Run the numbers, and you're not going to really notice much of a difference. But your house gets bigger, right? So now you move up to, let's just say, a $700,000 house. All right, we're going to put down our 72 grand. Let's just say interest rates staying like that. All right, so now we move up to a higher bracket. Now, all right, yeah, our payment went up about $1,000, but we've also had 3 years of building our income and things like that. You also not have to put as much down and save some of that money, but In 3 years now, 1 year now we're netting $43,000 because we're in the $700,000 bracket. In 3 years we have $100,000. Okay, just like I did, you take that money, you sell, and you move up to the next bracket, which is, you know, let's just say $1 million house, right? So now we go to $1 million house. Is that enough zeros? Nope.
One more.
All right, and we had $100,000 down. Okay. Now we own $1 million house, right? Hopefully, maybe that's our forever home. Who knows? But now it's something. Usually, when you do your third step, it's a longer term home, right? Well, now we found something we're pretty comfortable in. 10 years. I mean, that's $708,000. It's a millionaire almost in 10 years. I mean, that's phenomenal. That's life-changing money, right? That's college fund for kids. You know, if you're into that, I personally don't believe in college anymore. But that's retirement funds, it's emergency funds, and that's wealth, right? And in 10 years, if you think back 10 years ago, I mean, it feels like yesterday, but having an extra $700,000 of wealth you built is life-changing. Right now, things change. A lot of things change. Options change. Investments change. You can buy rental properties. You can buy commercial properties. I mean, that's just so much extra cash and money you've invested into yourself over the course of time. Right? That's how you get La Jolla View, right? With Ocean Beach. I mean, but you got to buy something. I don't care if it's a box on the side of the street. If you own the land, it's gonna help you way more than rent, right? Rent is the ultimate killer, the ultimate staller of everything. And I would preach it to the rooftops if anyone listened to me. Because, I mean, look at it. Let's just say, let's go back to reality here real quick. Let's go back to 500,000 with our zero down. And, okay. All right, so let's say our rent is $2,500 a month, right? That's what our rent is right now. So if you guys are renting for $2,500 a month, that's $30,000 a year. You're throwing away, right? That's not going to help you gain any money. $30,000 a year gone. Versus positive, right? Your first year you gained $30,000 in equity. So you have the option of losing $30,000 or gaining $30,000. That's a $60,000 swing, right? That's in a year's income for a decent job, right? But you have a job that your house is your new job. Really, that's a $60,000 swing in income. Just think about that. And we're sitting here. I have clients tell me I'm not going to buy a house because I don't have a washer. Right? And I was just like, it's just frustrating. I'm like, get out of your own way. Get out of your own way. You are, mind knowing what yourself, right? Because of a washer. I mean, I don't know, a $60,000 washer? Who cares? Make a sacrifice. Build your wealth. Stop thinking you need all these random little things. I don't care where it is or where you live. I've seen it. I've lived it. It works. Buy something you hate. Actually, there's be a new bumper sticker. Buy something you hate. Because eventually it's going to turn into something you love, right? And then the numbers show you right there. But you will need to think. Yeah, you had a question?
What's the difference if you were to put like $50,000 down? Or what does that make?
Well, yeah, I can show you.
How does that affect the?
So if you put $50,000 down, obviously that's going to drop your payment about $400 a month. And so it's just really an instant $50,000 in equity you have banked for you, right? So it's not going to make much of a difference here. It's going to make more difference here in your total monthly investment. So if you have any money sitting around, absolutely put it in your house. It's safe there, right? You're much better off sitting in your house, lowering your monthly investment, right? And so instead of paying $3,300 a month to gain 31 grand, I'm gonna only pay $2,900 a month to gain 31 grand, right? When it's not in your house, it's probably gonna go to something stupid, right? That's just what we do. I'm the first reason of that, right? If I all the extra money I get, I put somewhere. I invest it in something. I don't care where it goes, because I know if it sits in my bank, I'm gonna buy something stupid. And it's okay. You can give yourself a stupid allowance, right? You know, you can do that. But if I have 50,000 sitting in the bank, you know, I'm gonna wake up one day with an RV in my parking lot because I want an RV, right? So, and that's just about discipline and kind of. But you need a plan, right? You sit down. You hear, where do I want to go? How much can I have fun with? How much I should be investing? This is all stuff you should sit down and really build out a plan and talk about, because maybe you should keep that 50, and maybe you shouldn't. Every situation is a little different, but yeah, it does just affect the amount you need to invest to get those numbers. So that's what I'm saying. Going back on track here, the other thing I want to show you is interest rates, because that's the other thing I get a lot of people discussing. All right, so I just had a guy, believe it or not, in December when interest rates were 3%, he told me he was going to wait for interest rates to go down, and I was like, what? All-time low is not good enough for you? Like what? And he's like, no, they're still too high. I'm like, okay. You know, then 2 months later, it went up 2.5%. But anyway, like I'm talking about getting out of your own way, making excuses for things that aren't really there, right? If you can afford, if you are pre-approved to buy a house, buy it. No other reason. Everything else is really an excuse to get out of your way, to do something that's scary and uncomfortable, right? Starting a new diet. Oh, it's uncomfortable. Going to the gym sucks, but you know it's good for you. Stop talking yourself out of it, because it's gonna benefit you, is what I'm saying. But let's say the guy I just talked to, he wants to buy it, let's say he wants to buy it 3%. So all right, we have 10 here. He bought it 5.5%, $3,200 a month, because he had absolutely no down payment. And here's his gains, right? And then let's just say we have John. John knows everything about the market. He's like, yeah, the interest rates are going to drop to 3% again, and that's what I'm going to buy. Okay, and then we'll say, all right, John, how long is it going to take for interest rates to drop to 3%? And he's like, oh, probably in 3 years, right? Maybe, you know. So okay, so in 3 years. All right, so let's look at John. All right, so Tim, we got a $3,200 payment, so let's not forget that. And John, the genius, buys at 3% 3 years later because he knew it was going to crash, come back down. So at first sight, he seems pretty smart. He bought the same house for, what is that? $700 less a month. So let's do the math. He saved himself $700 a month over 3 years. And that's 36 months, right? 3 years?
Yep.
All right, so John saved $25,000 by waiting 3 years to capture that interest rate. Whereas good old Tim, not knowing what he's doing. Oh, let's move that back to 5.5 where Tim bought. He made $72,000 in 3 years at a 5% increase. Remember, that's low. That's below the average. So who won? $25,000 or 72? If you don't know, 72 won. Oh, we're in trouble here. All right. So that's like a $50,000 win. And the cherry on top is that Tim, now he got $50,000 more in equity, and now he just needs to refinance, and he's already equal with John. Same payment, right? But then this doesn't even include, what if prices went up 5% for 3 years, right? That's a $550,000 house he's buying at 3%. So reality, he's lost a lot more money. I didn't even get into that. If I got into home values increasing, for him to wait, it would be disgusting how much Tim won over John. But I won't even get into that. So that's why I'm saying waiting is really, if we look down at it, unless you have to work, you know, if you're not pre-approved, you have to do something that's different. Yes, go get it done. But if you get pre-approved and your reasons are, there's just nothing I like, or prices are too high, or something's gonna happen magical that just sweep in, and, well, it's not. It's just not, right? You guys just don't get in your way. Own a home is life-changing. I've done it, I've lived it, right? Don't overthink it, right? We have 100 years of proof showing the benefits of owning a home. And why would we try to fight that over a 6-month period of uncertainty in a market. It just doesn't make sense. Now, if there was massive issues in the past of things really going nuts, I mean, but it's so steady and so normal, and you just look at what in the population increases things. I mean, houses they're gonna keep going up. It's not a secret, and you guys all know that, right? And it sucks when you don't own a house that they go up, and you want to complain, and you want to fight, and say, I'm not gonna do this, but other people are. While you sit on the sidelines, they're gonna do it, and then they're gonna build the wealth. And you're just gonna go back like my 25-year-old self and say, I wish I would have, but I didn't. I didn't buy it at 25, and I bought it at 35, and I'm much better off of it. I didn't throw a fit and say, I'm never gonna do it. I'll show them. I finally did it when I could, when I was educated enough to make that right decision, and now, thank God I did, right? Because I got a whole lot more options than I do now than I did then. So that's really all I guess I have to share with you guys. I'm gonna let Colleen cover a couple stuff from her end, which is very interesting, and we'll give away a TV. And any other questions real quick before I transfer to Colleen?
I had a couple questions.
Yeah, I'll get to you right after.
Sorry, I didn't see.
No, it's okay.
So I feel like they're like stupid questions, but I feel like this is like the place to ask those types. So like I wanted to know, like, when do you, like, what is equity? Like, cause I'm reading all these things on Zillow that say like instant sweat equity, right? And
Right.
like when you buy a car, they say, you know, it instantly, you drive off the lot and it instantly depreciates.
Right.
So is it that you move in and the home value goes up, or that you're paying into it, or what?
That's a great question.
exactly
So,
is-
equity, I guess the simplest way to define it is the money you make off something, right? So when you mention sweat equity, like if you go into a house and you tear out the carpets and install new flooring yourself, you paint that house yourself, you make some changes to increase the value, right? So you've increased the value. Let's say you've done enough changes to where maybe you spend $5,000, you do a bunch of work on the house, and because of your changes to the house has gained $10,000 in value. So you spent $5,000, it's worth 10 more, so you just gained $5,000 in sweat equity because that's the work you did yourself. Then there's market equity. My home's worth $500, and now it's worth $520. That's $20,000 of market equity. I mean, just different names of equity is just profit, really. So there's a bunch of different ways you're gaining profit. When you're paying down your balance, right, you're gaining equity because your balance is lowering. When your home value goes up, you're gaining equity because your home value goes up. When you do work on your house, goes up. And a car, the value depreciates, right, the second you drive off the lot. So if it's worth 30 grand, I drive off the lot, it's worth 20 grand now. I just lost $10,000 of negative equity. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So yeah, it's just the term they use for profit, really, or what you're gaining. Because there's so many different ways you gain equity in home ownership. That's why it's so great. There's so many ways you can gain equity. You can install a vanity and gain equity. You can make a payment, you gain equity. Your value goes up, you gain equity. I mean, it's like Oprah throwing out equity. You can have equity, you can have some equity, right? It's just,
You get a
right. It's just, that's why it's so valuable owning a home. You can, it's so many things you can do. And just like, I want to gain $5,000 of equity. Let's do new floorboards. That costs what, $700? Boom. Next thing you know, I gained some equity, right? So it's just unlimited ways of gaining equity, which is you don't get when you rent, right? It's just, I don't want to, change someone else's house for them.
No, it's literally
right.
saying that paying rent is like literally flushing my money down the toilet.
Right.
Like literally.
Right, and then that's true. The thing is people pick that because it's more comfortable, right? They don't want the change, they don't want the move, they don't want the downgrade. They're focused on the right now, and that's the biggest, at least what I see, right? Because when they tell me their reasons, I'm just hearing, I'm scared, and it's uncomfortable. That's really what I hear, and that's fair, because buying a house is scary and it's uncomfortable. But it's the ones who sacrifice it, who just pull that Band-Aid and get through it. The sooner you do that, you start reaping the benefits. But if you're worried about it, talk to people like Colleen. Get the financial plan together so you're good and you're going to it confident. Don't just be like, I need to buy a house, whatever this person says I'm in. But make a smart decision, but make it the second you can, and you should have not much to worry about.
Okay, and then I'm wondering like about the interest rate. So for me, I know like buying a car, if my interest rate is low, that means my payment's lower, and then potentially I'm paying less for my car in the long run. Is it same with the house to where if my interest rate is, 4.75, right? Is it like a 30-year loan, or do you pay it monthly? And if you sell the home before the 30 years is up, you don't have to pay the 5% in interest or something?
All right, so you're paying monthly, right? The interest you pay monthly. So, let's say your payment's $3,000. The beginning of your loan, you're paying more interest, and as you go along, you pay less interest. So maybe $2,000 of my payment goes to interest, and $1,000 comes to me. And then in like 4 years, maybe $1,000 of it goes to interest, and $2,000 comes to me. It goes down. So you pay more interest up front. That's what banks do to collect back their money as quickly as possible, because that is their money, but you're getting that equity. But yeah, your interest lowers as you go along. And if you pay it off, normally you have a balance, right? So in 3 years, let's say you want to sell it, you pay off the balance. There's no interest on the balance, right? The interest is on your monthly payments,
Yeah.
right?
And then how does refinancing like lower your payment? Like when I bought my car, they said, oh, pay this car for a year and then go to a credit union and they'll give you a lower interest rate or something like that. So I'm trying to
Right.
take my head out of buying a car.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
biggest
Well,
purchase I've ever done.
it's a little similar as buying a car as far as it directly affects your interest rate. So look go right here. If in this scenario, if interest rates drop to 4.75, like they are right now, you're just paying less interest per year and more principal. So you go from $3,300 to $300, right? So that's $300 less a month in interest. So we just saw that 0.75% of interest rate in this scenario is affecting your monthly payment by about $300. So it's just less interest you're paying monthly. Just like a car. If you're lower interest rate, and then they do that, what they say that with a car is because normally if you get your first car is a high interest payment, or most people, right? But if you do a year of on-time payments, then a bank that offers lower interest rates will probably, hey, you make your payment on time, go ahead and refinance with us. We'll lower your interest rate, and we want the interest, not that bank. So that's very common. Most time you buy a car, you can do up to 18, 24% interest rates. But if you do steady payments over time, then a bank that's a lot more tight on their qualifications will see that you have a good payment history, and they'll let you refinance and lower your payment with it.
So it's basically the same for the house. Like if you're refinancing, you're taking the value of the home, doing another loan
Yes.
on the value of that home, and getting a lower interest rate, in turn lowering your payments.
Exactly. Yep. Exact same. Did you have a question?
It was with the refinancing. So for me, when I refinanced my car, it didn't cost money, but from what I understand, it costs money to refinance a house. About how much does that usually cost?
That's a great transfer to Colleen because she's done refinances. So I'll let her answer that question for you. Yes.
Is there a benefit to being a first-time home buyer or somebody who's already?
There are certain programs out there that have benefits, like that new one she's going to talk about. There's a new no down payment option but you have to be a first-time home buyer, which also has different definitions. I mean, which I'll also let Colleen answer. But yeah, there are some first-time home buyer things out there that help.
Now, if you owned a house before and then now you're not a homeowner anymore, now you go to buy another home, you're no longer a first-time.
It depends. I think there's a lot, Colleen. I'm just going to transfer to you, right? Because isn't there a time frame where you consider first-time home buyer again?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna actually, because those are great questions. I'm just gonna. And she's the lender side of it.
Let me use your suit. No,
Oh.
I gotta look the part.
So just if you answer the refinance question and the first-time. home
Yeah,
buyer.
the refinance question, there's absolutely some expense that goes into refinancing, but it's different. Because one of the biggest expenses, whether you're buying or you're refinancing, is establishing what we call an impound account. And an impound account, it's really your money. It's property taxes and insurance that you pay a chunk over here to the bank. So when your payment's made, it's all done. You're paying all of that. So when you establish that, let's say your there's like $6,000 of new impound you have to pay. But guess what? From this lender, you're gonna get a refund of $5,800. So it's a wash. And sometimes, depending on the equity in your home, some people just go, you can wrap it into the loan if you want to, and then just take the money and do something else with it. There's a lot of options to do. There's not a lot of heavy expenses. There's escrow, title, appraisal, the lender charges, and then the impounds. And most of that stuff can easily be absorbed or put into the balance. You don't have to like come out of pocket. You can actually make money, because if you wrap it all in and you wait for your refund, that goes in your pocket. Go to Hawaii. Oh, did I say that?
Yeah.
Let's see, the other question was,
Oh, just first time home.
oh,
buyer.
yes. There's a lot of different programs, and some of them will define a first-time home buyer that hasn't owned a home in the last 3 years. Some are in the last 5 years, but the majority are like the last 3 years. And there are some benefits, like this brand new program that just hit is exclusively for first-time home buyers. And you can't make more than, I think it's $88,000 a year. And if you don't make more than $88,000 a year, you're a first-time home buyer, you have at least a 640 credit score. If you have a 700, it's even better, but if you have a 640, you can do it. They will give you up to 10% down to cover and closing costs and the whole thing, which is awesome, but here's the most awesome part. If you live there 5 years, it's forgiven. Completely forgiven. Whew. I'd live anywhere for 5 years to have that forgiven. So that's just one program. We have one of our clients that right now is doing that. So it's like kind of a thin quarter, right? Because of what you make and all that kind of thing, but it's a fabulous program. It really is. And if you're like self-employed, you know how that rolls. You might make in your company $150,000, but what you show on your tax return is 80, right? So that's where that can be really, really beneficial. There's other down payment assistance programs. There's a bunch of them. They all have different qualifications, and they are not all first-time home buyers. There's some that are for anybody and everybody. And if you don't happen to have VA benefits, if you have VA benefits, get on one knee and say, thank you, Jesus, because it's honestly so valuable. You can buy a $5 million home with no money down. Well, you have to qualify for it, but you can. That's kind of crazy, right? And there's so many other VA benefits, from education to the healthcare to so many things. But if you don't, and you don't have any money, and maybe you don't qualify for any of these down payment assistance programs, with FHA and conventional, you can do 3.5%, you can do 3% down. And that's not that much money. The difference in FHA, lower interest rate, but you pay mortgage insurance, and it's with you the whole time. So you end up refinancing out of it. Conventional loan, you can pay mortgage insurance, but in 2 years, they'll look at it and say, oh, now you've got 25% equity, mortgage insurance gone, you don't have to refi. So there's a lot of different options in lending. It's not kind of what I want to talk about today, but there are lots and lots of options. He's so right, when the crash happened, if any of you really want to understand, and it's a hard thing to understand, but it's a great movie to watch. It's called The Big Short.
It's the movie.
Okay? It's a great movie. I owned a lending company at the time, and as I watched that movie, I sat there and cried, because I knew that the things that people were doing, I wasn't doing it, and I wasn't letting anyone do it in my company, but I knew what was happening in the industry, and there was nothing I could do about it. And when I watched that movie, to see what greed and fraud and all that stuff can do, I literally cried. I mean, it was horrifying. It was really horrifying, and it was all extremely true. So if you want to understand more about that, watch it, and it'll make you go, that's not happening again. Because guess what? There's never going to be that loosey-goosey compliance rules. It's just not going to happen again. The feds are like going, yeah, no. So that's the good news. Now, when you go to buy a house or a condo or whatever, I'll finish the story, by the way, my 24%. It's, swear to God, it's a true story. We'd been married for 10 years, had 3 kids. And a guy at our church, this was when prime rate, I think, was like 19% or something, or 16 or 17 or 18. And a guy at our church said, do you guys want to buy my house? I'll let you buy it with no money down. Bing, 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 right? And then the other shoe dropped. He said, I have a loan on it. It was, I think we paid 114 or 115. He said, I have a loan on it, and I want to say this was 90-some thousand, and his interest rate was like 18 or 19. He said, so I will wrap my loan, and you pay me, and I pay my lender. And the whole thing, you're going to pay 24%. So he's making 5% on what he's carrying, and he's making 24% on the equity. And every single person in our lives, every single person, I'm not kidding you, was like, you're out of your mind. Have you ever had somebody tell you that? Except for my dad. Thank God that both my husband and I at that time had so much respect for my dad. Because I want to put this in perspective for you. Just on the mortgage that we were paying to this guy, it was a private mortgage. This is 1982. That was like, I was doing the math back there, $2,300. Then we had to pay our taxes and our insurance. In 1982, you guys, we both David had to work 2 jobs. My parents did free babysitting. It was insane. It was insane. For 3.5 years, it was insane. And everyone looked at us, side-eyed like, you're so stupid. And in 3.5 years, we sold that 100 that we paid 115 for, and we walked with like 120, somewhere 120, 125, somewhere like that. And we went and bought a brand new gorgeous house in Horizon Hills, 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, swimming pool. Aaron can tell you. Everybody remembers that house. It was gorgeous. And we went from this little house that we didn't really like and killing ourselves to this. And we cut our mortgage payment in half. And the rates were still like 9%, but 24. Whew. So it was unbelievable. And that was kind of the beginning. It like planted the seed in my mind to really study this stuff. Did I like that? No. Did it scare me? Scared the bejesus out of me. Did I hate it? Yes. Do I love it? Yes. Literally. He's not kidding. It's been years, and even going through a divorce, and I live in a gorgeous home in La Jolla. Not because I saved money. It's because I know how to do real estate. And I still have other properties that are rentals, right? So one of the joys that I have, I love it, love it, love it, is to help just regular couples start with their own house, and if they want to build some wealth in real estate, I'm your girl. So pray I don't die, because I'm telling you, I love to do it. I love to do it. I really, really do. I know, I'm crazy. And my son's back there going, oh, Mom. Anyway, so there's a couple of things. I just want to plant some seeds. This is what I do. A lender might say to you, hey, you're qualified for a $4,000 payment. Oh, that's cool. If that doesn't panic you and you're fine, fine. You might not need me. However, I meet with people and I really look at their financial situation. But Dustin's right. I'm very direct. He didn't tell you. I mean, he's like a son to me, but I took his credit cards away, locked them up in the safe. I won't do that to you. I won't, I promise. Cross my heart. I won't do it. But it's an indicator that the 2 things that destroy us financially, 2 big things. One is credit, and the second one is what I call bleeds, okay? Every single person in this room, I don't care who you are, I don't care how much you make, you've got some bleeds. And you define a bleed as an area of, it's usually irregular spending, right? And you have no idea that you're really spending that much. And I remember it was like a few years back, I was going, because I learned this, man. I quit using credit, boom, boom, boom. You live within what you make. That's why credit is deadly. And even if you go, well, we pay it off every month. Well, yeah, you do now. What if something happens to your job? Then you're like, that happened to me. I teach this from personal experience. Anyway, I started going, where the heck is my money going? So I looked at it. And when you look at it, you have to be honest. And in your folders, there's some forms we put in there that Michelle created. If you're gonna meet with me, I'm gonna want to see this stuff, not because I care, and not because I judge, because I've been there and done that. I will help you figure out where your bleeds are. I remember one couple, I said, you're spending $2,500 a month on fast food. They were both in the medical industry, so it was real easy to just go boop boop for lunch, boop boop for dinner, boop boop. They didn't even have any kids. $2,500 a month. So I said, it's not, if you want to spend $2,500 a month, that's okay. You just need to know it. Then you can make a decision, an informed decision. So I said, do you think if we plan it out and you take the cash and you live within that cash, you think you could each cut down $250 a month? And they went, of course. I said, that $500 is the difference in your rent and your mortgage. What a surprise, you know? It's amazing what you find out. And if you don't know, you need to know. And I'm not telling you to change it. I met a week and a half ago. I met with one of our clients, some of our clients, and they make like $400,000. And they don't save a penny. Because I know you spend what you make unless you're very, very rare. And if you're very, very rare, you actually will have an automated distribution to something, a savings account, an investment account. And God bless you if you do. That's fabulous. And I can take you to the next level from that even. So they're going, where's our money going? So right now I'm making them send me their credit cards because I can look at your bank statements and see everything you do. But the minute I look at your credit cards and I add it all up, because they pay them off every month, which is great. God bless them. But that's how you find out what's happening. That's where you can find money for your mortgage payment. You secondly will find money for your mortgage payment, and I can only tell you, and every single one of you are going to be sitting there, I promise you, figuring out how and why you should keep your credit cards, okay? But without a credit card, you have a debit card, it's a debit credit. If you only use that, you are then living within your means, living within what you make. You're not living on the future, the if come. If you're charging, you go, well, I can afford the payment. That is the biggest myth you will ever have. I have counseled so many people that did that and did that and did that, and pretty soon they have to file bankruptcy because they're in so much debt. So there's a few things I can teach you. There's a couple to just plant seeds. Now you're all terrified to meet with me, I get it. But I don't want to know what you qualify for. I want to know what's right for you. Sometimes the bank will say, well, you qualify for $4,000, and I meet with you and we go through everything, and I find out, and I make sure there's vacation money and there's fun money and all that kind of stuff. And I say, no, I think you need to stick to $3,200. Now, some of my agents might not like me, but that's what I do. Because they'd rather have their clients happy and in something they can afford. That's what I do. And there have been many times I've said, not right now. This is what I need you to do. In the next 3 months, then we'll buy you a house. Because the last thing in the world that anyone in this company, when my son and I and Dustin and we started this company, our goal was to make a difference in people's lives. And that doesn't mean getting them in over their head. Because we all can, spread the ether around and get you to buy everything that you think you can afford, right? But I want to make sure that you truly, truly can afford it. And I will find money for you, I promise. I fund money by tax deductions. I look at tax returns all the time, and not only do I teach what's going to happen once you buy, I have found big fat errors that all of a sudden you can go back a few years and get another 5,000 here, another 4,000 there. It's amazing. It's really amazing, and all tax preparers are not equal, just so you know. I owned a mortgage company, and some of the lenders, if it would get slow, some of the loan officers, they'd go work for H&R Block or something. You guys don't know anything about taxes. Yeah, well, they have software. Give me a break, right? You need someone that knows what they're doing, okay? I don't care if it costs you $250 or $300. Worth every penny, okay? Because I've seen so many tax returns that had big, fat errors that cost you guys money. And I don't like that. So that's just kind of an overview of what I do. And start with those forms I put in there. If you got the guts, take everything in 1 month, your bank statements with all the debits, your credit cards with all the charges, put them in the categories and add it up. I promise you, you're all gonna be going, it's just the way it is. And so does anybody have any questions on lending or what I'm talking about? And please know, I'm not making you do any of this. I'm not, and I'm not judging you for any of it. Because if you say to me, look, we wanna save $2,000 a month because we like to go on big fat vacations at the end of the year, I will help you figure that out, okay? Okay. I wanna go on a big fat vacation. I'm going to Italy in 10 days, so. Any questions or anything? Anybody wanna know what it feels like to pay 24% interest? I know it's horrifying, but guess what? It was the beginning of creating what I have now. And I went through a gnarly divorce, you know. So, yeah, it's great. Anything else? We want a TV? This is a really good odds moment.
Yeah. You guys all have.
And it's what,
pretty good
65 inches?
65 inches, yeah.
65 inch TV.
The only thing is, it's a dumb TV. It's not a smart TV.
Oh.
You guys actually have to do stuff to it. No, I'm kidding. It's a smart TV.
Close your eyes.
Okay, open it, I can't say. I am not mechanical at all. Brian Cruz.
Oh my
There you go. Am I your favorite person? Absolutely.
Where are you gonna put it?
Where are you gonna put it? Yeah. Keep it for your new house.
My next
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else? Well, Aaron, I'll let you close it.
Yeah, guys. So, just a little backstory. When we first started the program, it actually started back in 2015, and you know, as I said, you know, at the time, my mom owned a mortgage company, and she was working for another company. So, when we started it, we were just kind of Forrest Gumping our way through it. You know, just trying to figure out how to, you know, how to make a real estate business that, you know, gave back to the community. And through a lot of prayer, through a lot of surrender, through a lot of different things, this is what we came up with, right? So, but the heart of this program is what you just saw, right? The only thing we want is for you guys to be educated, because if you're not educated, you're going to make decisions that are going to scare the crap out of you. And the problem with making those decisions is a lot of people will start the process the wrong way. They'll look at houses and they'll go online. I had a friend, well, Kaya, she just told me, she went online and she's looking on Zillow, and she'd go look at a property and like it, and she'd get called by 15 different people that are trying to push her into a house, right? And then what happens is you don't find anything, or you get tired of that, so you're like, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm going to take a break, this is too intimidating, right? Because you're not educated on the process and what you're supposed to do. By the time you actually go out looking at houses to want to buy, you guys should be confident in that decision. Because if you're not, and you're out there looking, you're going to get scared out of the market. You're going to get harassed, you're going to get called, you're going to get all different sorts of things. I don't know if anybody's gone through that other than, you know, Kaya, but I can guarantee you, when you first start thinking about a house, the first thing you do is you go look online and you go, oh, let me see what houses are out there, right? Just remember, Zillow, Redfin, all those places are designed to bring agents to you guys. It's advertising. So when you look at a home, it's going to alert agents that, hey, this person's looking for a home, call them and get them into a home, right?
You
So-
want to make an offer?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
let me look.
Yeah, right. And the reality is, these agents, you know, when they're, you know, going through these advertisements, they're, you know, they're not nice. You know, they're just agents that got a license that sometimes do it part-time, that are just trying to make some extra money, you know. So what we created here is a process for you guys, right? It's a one-stop shop to finish the process. But not only do you get to go through the process correctly, you also get rebates, right? The lenders, as Colleen mentioned, cover 1% of your closing costs of the total loan amount. So if you're buying $500,000, they give you $5,000. It's not tied into the rate. It's not tied into the equity. It doesn't get wrapped into anything. It's just money off, you know, their closing costs. If it's a little bit higher, some buy down the interest rate. Some just keep the cash and, you know, hopefully put it in that fund for Hawaii or whatever they want to do, right? But the reality is, that's what we do to help you guys in the process and to get you to come to the program so you go through the process correctly. Because if you don't, I've heard so many people get scared out of the market for no reason because they're not educated. They go to their mechanic who's working on their car that's about to charge them $800 for, spark plugs, say, oh, don't buy in this market. It's horrible. It's going to crash and you're going to regret it and all this stuff. And it's like, this guy's never owned a home in his life. Another example, I'm going to keep pulling her covers, but Kai just told me her mom's like, oh, don't buy right now. Everything's coming crashing down. Does your mom own a home?
No.
How old is your mom?
65.
65 years old. So these are the people that we're taking advice from. 100 people told my mom, no, you shouldn't buy a house. That's ridiculous. One person that she respected said, you need to do this. This is the decision you need to do. So all we're asking is, guys, get educated. If you have any concerns or anything, sit down with Colleen. Let her go through your finances. She might tell you now's not the right time. Do these things, get these things in order, and then the time is right. Okay, so my own experience, I tell people all the time, I didn't make $1 million working a job ever in my life. The only way to do it is real estate. Buying your first place. Then you buy your first place, then you buy a rental property. Then I bought a sober living. And I just kept moving in the direction of owning real estate, right? That's how you do things if you want to create wealth, no matter where you work. You could stay, my mom taught me a long time ago. She said, you could be a manager at McDonald's or a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. And this manager at McDonald's could have more liquid assets than this CEO making $300,000 a year. It's how you perceive things. Because when I was working a job where I was selling pens over the phone, cold calling people, making what I thought was great money, $3,000 a month or whatever I was making, right? But I didn't have a lot of overhead. I had a cell phone bill. I had rent for like $750 or $650. I had gas. So I did an envelope system. I put envelopes for everything that I needed for the month, right? So Costco, at the time I was smoking cigarettes, entertainment, whatever it is, gas, whatever the situation was for me, I would put those in the envelope. And then everything I had left, I just put it in a savings account. I was riding the buses and the trolleys. I didn't have a car. But I was able to save enough money to buy a car for $1,000. And it was a Nissan Maxima with like 260,000 miles on it. But I took care of that car. It was my car, I took care of that car. I was proud of that car, It's just how we start. Everybody thinks, oh, I'm too far down. I can't get started. Yeah, you can. You just need direction, and you have to take the advice that's given. Because here's the thing. If you're taking advice from people that you just know or friends or whatever, and if you're taking advice from somebody that has been renting forever, has 3 kids and a wife living in a 1-bedroom apartment and working the same job for the last 25 years with no growth, and you're listening to that person, you might want to reconsider and say, I want to talk to people that are doing what my goals are. I want to talk to people that own a home in, wherever, Poway or Scripps Ranch or some other state in Hawaii or wherever you want to go when you retire. I want to talk to the people that built wealth and figured out how to do it correctly, no matter what job they were working. So just understand, education is everything for us. It's the first part of the program. It just broke my heart because we had so many people sign up for for the education. COVID didn't just ruin inflation and economy and gas prices and all that stuff. It also just made people that much more lazy. I don't want to get off my couch because I can do everything on Zoom, right? So people don't even get out of their beds and out of their homes to show up. I looked at the employment rate, and it's like there was 40% decrease in employment rate, or 40% increase in employment, which was good. But they talked to 40,000 people that need a job that aren't actively looking for a job.
What?
Imagine that. 40,000 people that are wanting a job, needing a job, but they're not looking for a job. Because my guess is they're sitting at home, filling a bunch of applications online, right, and waiting for calls, right? Back in my day, I filled out an application. When I got a job at the car dealership, I walked in there and I was like, I want to fill out an application. Oh, you can do it online. I'm like, I'll take a paper application. Because back in my day, we filled out an application. I sat and waited to talk to a manager. That's what I did. And so I said, I'll fill out a paper application. And they're like, okay. I turned to it and I was like, can I talk to a manager? Like, well, they're all really busy. I'm like, I can wait. You got popcorn, water. I'm good, So I sat there for 1.5 hours, 2 hours till I talked to a manager. Then I talked to another manager. Then I talked to another manager. The next day they brought me back to talk to 3 more managers, and then I was hired. So the reality is the go-get of this world has become, hey, we don't have to get up and put in the action, right? Even showing up for an education seminar, you guys did. That's amazing. And I really hope and pray you guys learned something today. But this is the first step. The next step after that, talk to Colleen. You don't have to buy a house after you talk to Colleen either, but you can just take that education and then go, okay, when I'm ready and you are ready, then you can come back and then we can get you started with the process, okay? But that's why we built the program. Yes, the money back we give you is amazing, but most of the reviews that you guys will read them. There's hundreds and hundreds of reviews. Read them. Is their experience with the program. The people they worked with, feeling like they're part of a family. Those are the reviews that we have. Not, oh, they gave me back a bunch of money. Not one, I don't even know if there's any reviews that talk about giving back money. It's all about their experience with us. So that's all. I just wanted to get you guys to remember that. But hey, thank you guys so much for coming. I really hope you guys got something from this. So. Woo-hoo!